When humans stand, walk and run, they are able to look around them as they do. In school, they teach you that our ability to stand up and widen our horizon was an evolutionary advantage. So much so, apparently, that we have become the dominant influence on the Earth's environment. When we walk or run on two legs, we are able to use our hands to hold tools, perhaps weapons, and this ability to engage technology has led to human domination of the planet. Now, this power over nature has led, as it regularly has, to a pandemic, not as dangerous or as cruel as some, but certainly painful. To protect the vulnerable, most countries have chosen to go into lockdown. The global economy, which spread the virus, is halted. The technologies and many of the cultural and sporting events, which we have considered the fabric of our everyday lives, have fallen away, at least temporarily. What remains allowed, and where apparently it all started, is standing, walking and running and observing. This is our program. The site lies on the edge of the city of Zurich, below the Uetliberg. Formalized in its current form in 1898, as the city grew, the area as well as the Siel Valley below have been used for weapons training for much longer. Bullets usually contain 6 different metals, some more toxic than others, but lead makes up the largest portion. In over 120 years of shooting, the bullet traps on our site now hold tens of tons of lead. Apart from the fact that large areas of the site are highly poisonous, it is a very pleasant area because it has little purpose beyond shooting and is currently largely out of bounds. It is relatively unkept and the meadows on the lower half grow wildflowers. The rotting branches and low brush of the fringes of the site provide shelter for small animals. The wider area is used a lot. The trails which traverse along the base of the Uetliberg are much used by walkers, runners, cyclists and horseback riders. The area also has a number of cultural functions. There are concerts, weddings, SVP meetings and parties at the old Schutzenhaus, and there is a revolving usage of circuses, temporary bars, homeless shelters, and fun fair stands on the gravel car park between the shooting range and the street. The only part of the shooting range that is regularly used today is a smaller police range and a dog training area at the back of the site. Our project starts with the ground, to make the area accessible and to incorporate it into the already thriving Albis area. It is necessary to clean the earth in the most affected areas. These are the bullet traps behind the stands and the smaller pistol range in front of the Schutzenhaus. The rest of the ground is below the legal limit for lead contamination. This process of cleaning the earth involves, in the worst affected areas, taking approximately the top 2 meters of earth away to a Bodenwaschanlage, an earth washing facility, and shaking, sieving, centrifuging and literally washing and filtering it until all the heavy metals have become separated from the ground. This process also has the result of separating the earth into its constituent parts, large stones, small pebbles of different grades, Uetliberg clay. By the end of this process, you have generated processed building materials. The companies, and there are 3 in the Zurich area who have this facility, reuse these materials. The stones as aggregates for concrete, the earth for topsoil, the metals are sold on and reused in other industries. This process of cleaning can become the active form with which we design. In the future, buildings will anyway be built in such a way that the materials can be reused with relative ease, but perhaps this can be an object lesson or a training ground. The 3 levels behind the shear stand will need to be dug out and using the cleaned earth and stone, they will be built back up into 3 theatres constructed out of packed earth. The paths too, which create new trails through the site, linking existing paths and creating cut-throughs and a running track, are formed with picked earth. The smoothness of this earth and the ramps it lends itself to also makes much of the area somewhat more accessible to wheelchair users and elderly or frail people. The one failing of the Uetliberg trails, which is little addressed, is that in their steepness and roughness they tend to favour the able-bodied. As far as possible, we would like to create an equality between the trail runners and the joggers, the walkers, strollers and rollers. The tiered concrete shooting stand becomes a different kind of stand, with a railing and a few short stairs. It becomes 3 lookout points from which to observe the activity happening across the whole site. We have chosen to leave the police sites in place, and it becomes possible for the public to look down into these private enclosures to observe the training of dogs and police from the stands above. The stands are also partly backfilled with earth and planted, sealing the tunnel which is the entrance and creating the potential for a non-human environment to grow inside. The fig trees which we plant, part of a wider strategy of fruit tree planting across the site, become a screen through which to observe or pass, giving shade or nourishment to the users of the auditorium. The completing of this process will take some time, for fruit trees to grow to size at least 20 to 30 years. The trails need regular maintenance, and those which are not used may no longer be needed. The character of the park changes with time, from fast-growing, scrubby hyper-accumulators which hold residual lead in place, to the willow trees which are coppiced every few years. Screening and opening up views over the park. Our project looks 30 years into the future, but we do not want to preclude a future beyond this. We start by cleaning the earth. This labour, we hope, can become not just the legal necessity, which it is, but also the germ that generates the possibility of a future for the site for its users, both human and non-human, beyond the life of any individual building, program or climate target.